Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Julie Feldman. She is a former yoga and fitness trainer, degrees in psychology and child education, now the founder of Aurenda, a community dedicated to helping women heal, find their worth, and become unstoppable. So we'll learn from her about what it means to walk through the fire, betrayal, trauma, and difficult seasons and emerge not just intact but transformed. Welcome to the show, Julie.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Julie. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about healing, we'll talk about worth, and we'll talk about thriving. So we'll talk about all this. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, your story, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Absolutely. Where would you like me to begin? I suppose my journey through healing and finding worth really started in a reflection of a crumbling tower. So I was in a marriage that was falling apart and had learned that the partner that I was with for 20 years had suddenly fallen out of love, was being aggressive, was drinking, was cheating. And I found myself really looking in the mirror and realizing that these little truths that I started seeing were there all along. And then I started uncovering a deeper truth of how I got there in the first place, and uncovering the path from childhood of really always being quieted and never being accepted for who I was. Always, you're better the less you talk, the less you say. And I learned that myself, who I was and how I showed up in the world was better when I was quiet, or that's what I felt from a young age. And so each relationship that I navigated and I sort of presented that way. I was the fixer, the one that was always trying to be seen, but from a very soft and delicate and I'll please you, the people pleaser way. And so fast forward to that moment where, I was in this crumbling tower of a family that I had tried to hold together for so long, 3 kids and 20-year marriage, and it all came falling down. And I was trying to build my business that was all about self-worth at that time. And little did I know that business was telling me that I needed to do a little more reflection before it could thrive. So I guess that's a quick synopsis of my journey.
Absolutely, absolutely, Julie. So, how do you remember that journey of yours? Do you remember it for the tower that came crumbling down, or do you remember it for the way you rebuilt it?
I love that question because I think it's such a choice that we have when the tower crumbles. Like, do we want to just sit in the rubble, or do we want to figure out how to rebuild something and rebuild something even better than what we were? So, yeah, I took a moment to feel the feels because I think part of the healing is feeling it, but absolutely found the wisdom and the beauty in that journey and in that tearing down.
Absolutely, Julie. So, how did you do it? Anything that is so precious when it is, you see it going down. You need time to grieve also. You need to reflect on everything. Did you have all that time? How did you motivate yourself, self motivate yourself? Where did you find support? How did you, start rebuilding? Because if I heard you correctly, you talked about three children. Along
Mm.
with all those things, mixed feelings, looking at the children, looking at the rubble, and looking at the future. How did you do it? Help us understand. So many people are in that same stage of life. They would be able to, understand and find some way, as they say, light at the end of the tunnel.
No, it's yeah, it when you have 3 children, young children, or I don't know, mine, I think they were between like 6 and 11 at the time. And it just it feels like an insurmountable amount of everything, of pain, of navigating this new life, of figuring out, um, just like the right turns to make, the right lawyer to choose, like just basic stuff. And also, I wanted to be very cognizant of how I was presenting myself to my children because I didn't want to show up for them in a way where everything looked too perfect, because I think it's important for children to acknowledge that parents aren't perfect and that we have moments of pain, and it's not their job to fix us. So that's the tricky part, right? You want to show them that, hey, you know what? Mama's feeling a little sad right now. I'm going to be okay. And it's okay for me to be sad. And so I think like talking to your children, if you have them, about like in a very like age appropriate way of talking to them, whether it's having a deeper conversation if they're older, or just like I said, saying to them, today I'm feeling a little sad, and that's okay. Some days you have days where you feel sad, and that's okay, because it gives us all permission to have feelings. And I think that that's so important for boys and girls to have their feelings and have them be acknowledged, because when we don't permit those feelings, it almost makes us feel like we need to hide who we are and makes us smaller. So I would say that that is such an important piece, to have open dialogue with your children. And also, they don't need the nitty gritty details of like what you're going through, but they need to know that you're okay. And they also need to know that you can be sad. So navigating that was, I think it took a lot of grace and a lot of patience and a lot of tools. So I would use tools like anything that could bring me to a more peaceful state, whether it was meditation, a counselor, doing Reiki, energy work. These things are so important when you're navigating difficult times, is knowing that you need tools, that you cannot do it alone and should not do it alone. And that you're so powerful that you can lean on things, right? What makes us powerful is our vulnerability. So hopefully I answered some of that question and how to navigate times like this. Um, when things are kind of falling apart.
Absolutely, absolutely, you answered them. And I'm sure a lot of people, as I said, would see a lot of light in those answers wherever, whenever they need it. So, to understand it, how was the journey, rebuilding journey afterwards, beyond that was like? Because you talk about, manifesting, building from a wounded place, it looks different from creating from wholeness. How was your state of mind? Were you looking at it from a wounded place, or were you looking at it from a place of wholeness? What was the state of your worth, self worth, if I use that word? and then the rebuilding part.
Yeah. I think that one of my greatest teachers along the way gave me permission to be in the and I think that's one of the strongest tools that I've used in rebuilding and stepping into my self-worth and my freedom is when you are in the you give yourself permission to say, hey, you know what? There is a part of me that is really sad right now, or there is a part of me that feels like she has no idea how to rebuild or what her life is going to look like, and she's scared. Having the so I can feel that, and I can feel really powerful too. And I can feel like I'm getting more freedom and more pleasure and joy from life and more peace from life than ever before. We live in a world of duality, and if we would deny ourselves that our own duality living within, then we deny ourselves the chance to grow and also be seen. Because I think that sort of the one that's struggling is really like that child self inside that still needs to heal on some level. And all that child self wanted, or that fear self or that doubt self, is to be seen, heard, and validated. And the more you can show up and say, hey, I see you there. I see that you're scared. I see that you don't know where you're going. I see your tears. I see your grief. And it's okay. And I know that we're on this path of peace and joy and freedom. So yeah, just validating, seeing will only make your path of self-worth stronger.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you already had a BA in psychology and
Mhm.
child education,
Right.
and then so how did you look at your educational qualifications at that as something strength, or were you actually already doing, because you are also a yoga, Pilates, and fitness trainer, and then the Aurenda part came in. I want to understand that how does a person, when they feel they are losing a lot of things, how do they rely on their skills and educations at a particular point? How do they gather all the tools that will help them fight back and rebuild?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's such a good question. It's for so long, you look at I guess you exit college or when you first started working and you're like, how did they're all stepping stones, right? So it's like you have a path and somehow all these stones end up making a path, a fluid path to where you are. And some stones may be more on the side and some might be more directly like in front of you, but each one was important. So I got my BA in psychology because I was fascinated about human development, anthropology, the way we think. And I was really passionate about helping children and teaching. And so as that evolved, I continued to do reading on it and, read books and just the thirst for knowledge. So after school is somewhat self-taught. And then I stepped into connecting the body because mind, body, spirit, I think there's this beautiful trifecta of the three working together. And I was missing the body component. So I went back to school and studied exercise science and nutrition. And pretty soon I was training people and teaching Pilates and teaching yoga, and I had sort of put the formal like wanting to be a therapist or wanting to be a school teacher along the side, but I was really teaching. I was teaching people how to heal their bodies, feel healthy in their minds, because many of my clients that I worked with were um, they weren't as healthy as they could be or aspired to be because there was a hang up in their mind and their heart. There was doubt. And so I was really working with mind, body, spirit, helping them set intentions every day of just getting up and getting out the door and feeling stronger and feeling powerful. And as that evolved, I was practicing yoga and came up with this idea of like, why can't, when we practice yoga, we have this like focal point called a drishti, and wouldn't that be a beautiful moment for us to look down and really take in an intention? Because as we work out and release endorphins, we are able to clear the mind and create joy, like physically on a science level. And when we release, right, we're releasing all these kind of like the negative cycle in our head when we exercise. We can definitely do that and replace it with this like higher joy. That's the perfect time to create intention. It's the perfect time to remind you how worthy you are. And so that's where Aurenda came in, of creating intention as we're in flow and as we're working out. And yeah, so that's kind of how all of those stepping stones fit together to be where I am right now.
Absolutely. So tell us a bit about Aurenda. Did you get a help, in your own journey of healing, thriving? Did you get some help like a community like Aurenda, or did you had to only rely on your skills? How did the idea of Aurenda came into being?
Well, the idea of Aurenda came from a yoga class where I was looking down at my sweaty mat and wanting an affirmation or a mantra in that moment of like just feeling that I had released some of the negative commentary in my head and just wanting that intention. So I started developing the ideas for that on my own. And I worked on the meditations and the mantras, and it was definitely a solo project. It went through a lot of iterations. I had a lot of friends come and give me their opinions and try the products out and rework the products with me. I think you build a community along the way. And currently, I now have like someone helping me with social media and someone helping me, with like marketing and yeah, slowly growing it. So it's been an exciting journey lately. But I think that really it wasn't until I was able to leave the marriage, leave the things that weren't working in my life, and really acknowledge what wasn't working and how I really wasn't feeding my own self worth. When I exited that marriage, I took a big journey, and I probably had been for years of slowly starting, but it kind of ramped up, and it was go time, and it was heal time, and it was, how can I find my power again, my freedom, my self-worth in all of that? And that's when the business started to shift and grow, and because I did. So the two really work together.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in a nutshell, Julie, what is it that you would want to tell the world, tell a lot of women about healing, about finding their worth and thriving?
Hmm. So many things, but I think it's so important for women and anyone on their healing journey really to tap in to tap into your heart and tap into your breath and get quiet. Find that voice inside of you that like lights you up, that tells you like, this is my purpose. Like these are my gifts, whether it's your love for just life, whether it's your intellect, whether it's your, your heart, your so many things, like your essence. What is your essence, and how is that really so strong? Like, I don't know if this is making sense, but I feel like when we can tap into the silence inside and in our breath, we really start to hear who we are. We really start to find our essence, what we're made of, and how we can be unshakable and unstoppable in this world. And that's when we stop listening to the external noises of people telling us who we are, because inside we know. And so find that voice, find that person, that soul, that fire within you, and don't be afraid, and begin slowly and just one step in front of the other.
Absolutely, absolutely, Julie. Don't be afraid. Begin slowly and take one step,
Yeah.
and that all will happen. There is so
Yeah.
much to learn about all this from you, Julie, and I'm sure a lot of people across the globe will want to connect with you, learn about all this, your journey, as well as about Aurenda. What's the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to be here and talk to you today. And if anyone wants to learn more about our products, you can find us on our website at Aurenda, which is spelled Aurenda.us, or I like to say us, Aurenda.us. And you can also find us on TikTok and Instagram at Aurenda, Aurenda. And then also, I've just started my own like personal side Instagram profile, which is julie.f.feldman. And that's where I give kind of personal nuggets of my journey and maybe some words of wisdom and encouragement.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.